Welcome, everyone. Welcome to our latest US soccer broadcast. We've been trying to keep you entertained during the great pause. So we've been trying to do our part in bend the curve and persuade you all to stay at home. We've been showing some men's national team classics, some women's national team classics, and some US Open Cup classics. And today, boy, do we have a real treat for you. We're going to take you back to August the 15th. 2017, an Open Cup semi-final that will never be forgotten between FC Cincinnati and the New York Red Bulls. I'm Adrian Healy, delighted to be joined by two of the main protagonists that night, Corbin Bone, once upon a time of FC Cincinnati, now of FC Louisville, and Sasha Kleshchin, who was on the New York Red Bulls, of course, now with the LA Galaxy. Welcome to you both, gentlemen. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for helping to set the scene for this game. We're going to be running the full game at 8 o'clock Eastern tonight, US Soccer, on the YouTube channel. First of all, challenging times for all of us. The great pause is what we're calling it. And I did think of both of you guys in particular, because we're all facing challenges, and both of you have both changed clubs recently as well. So that must have added an extra layer of degree of difficulty to the last few weeks for you. Corbin, first of all, how's it been for you with a new club in Louisville City?
It's been good so far. Like you said, it's a bit challenging now, to get on a new squad and go through preseason and try and acclimate yourself with a new team, with a new coach, new players, new environment, and then to kind of get a halt. It makes it difficult, but it's been great so far, and we've been keeping in touch. Thankful for things like this, like Zoom and stuff, and they're great guys. So I'm anxious to get back and continue the new journey that I started with them.
Yeah, and Sasha, for you, how have the last few weeks been? Making the move back home after 10 years away to Southern California. How's that gone?
Yeah, transition was pretty smooth because we bought this house actually here like 10 years ago. So for us to move back into our home, that part was pretty easy, and, get my daughter in school and things like that. But, trying to keep the kids entertained and then trying to stay as fit as possible during this time. Yeah,
challenges all around. So we're going to try and entertain people over the next, couple of hours with what was just an amazing game. To build up to the game, I want both of you, first of all, to talk about that year in general, without sort of talking about the Open Cup run specifically. We will get to that, but try and set the scene for us in terms of 2017. Corbin, I'll start with you again, because that was just a simply amazing year. FC Cincinnati seemed to come out of absolutely nowhere to be a major factor on the national radar. I know you had started the year before in 2016 and made quite a splash, but in 2017, things seemed to accelerate really rapidly for Cincinnati.
Yeah, they compounded quick. As we started, the expectations were high internally, and everyone knew where we were hoping to go. And it just kind of caught fire. And the atmosphere and the fans and the city really got behind us, and the support was tremendous, and it honestly just continued to grow and grow and grow at a rapid rate. I think the Open Cup had a lot to do with that, but even outside of that, before we started, you could see the momentum we were gaining, starting off in 2016 and then into 2017 and beyond. You could see it becoming a real movement in Cincinnati. And I was blessed to be a part of it from the very beginning, to kind of watch it grow. And I'm so thankful that I could be a part of it for so long, because it was a very special time in that city for me personally, and then I think for soccer in general, to see a movement like that in the city that kind of, like you said, came out of nowhere. It's great for the sport.
Yeah, it's hard to think of another instance in the history of the game in this country where an organization has gone from 0 to 100 that quickly. Sasha, were you aware of what was going on in Cincinnati? But obviously, doing what you were doing with the Red Bulls, were you aware of the story that was unfolding there?
Oh yeah, I mean, the Open Cup was a big goal for us. We wanted to win the Open Cup, and so we had seen them beat Chicago and Columbus, and we had seen the crowds that they had been getting. And then, the New York Red Bulls 2 team played against FC Cincinnati in the USL. So we would follow along those games. I was always checking the standings, and I'm pretty sure you guys were pretty high up, like top of the table for most of that season too. So we knew they were a good team. And then 30,000 people at the games, that was pretty awesome to see. We were following along closely.
Yeah. And set the scene for us, Sasha, in terms of 2017 for the Red Bulls, because you'd come off two fantastic seasons. It was your third year there. It was Jesse Marsh's third year there. You know, you and Bradley Wright Phillips had set all sorts of records the year before. I think in 2016, you'd won the East. In 2015, you'd won the Supporters' Shield. 2017 seemed to be kind of a year of evolution for the Red Bulls. Things weren't going as well in the league, were they?
Yeah, no, you said it perfectly. We came off of two very good years. Won the Supporters' Shield. We're first place in the East in 2016. Going into 2017, obviously, we still hadn't reached MLS Cup yet, which was the big goal. And then the Open Cup, we had failed in the Open Cup the previous 2 years. So we always took the tournament very seriously. And leading up to the game against Cincinnati, we had played three of probably our four biggest rivals in the early rounds. You know, we beat New York City in the first round. We beat Philadelphia in penalties in the second round. And then the third round game at New England, a place that the Red Bulls hadn't won, I think, in over 10 years. The game was played at Harvard University on a tough pitch. It was an ugly game, but we grinded it out and we got the 1-0 win and put us in the semifinals. So we knew going into Cincinnati that we had a chance to make the final, and it was very big for us.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting, Sasha, because in both cases, and I'm going to correct you a little bit, and Corbin, maybe you can pick up on this, actually you hadn't been doing as well in the league that year, if I'm right in saying, as the previous year, your first season in 2016 in the USL. 2017 had been a bit more of a struggle in the league, but then of course you had this amazing cup run, which actually started way back in early April for you guys, didn't it? In fact, it nearly didn't start at all. Am I right in saying you had to get past a Cleveland team from the NPSL in the second round in the cold depths of April? Just talk us through how that Open Cup run just kind of blossomed for you guys.
Yeah, I mean, that's the beauty of the Open Cup, right? That it seems like every kind of introductory game into it is the entry level game is always, every game is hard. So thinking back to that game, it's difficult and the mindset is, it's funny now because you think about you're playing a lower level team, where same with Sasha as well. It's like they're probably going into it thinking about it's a lower level team, but anything can happen in those games. It's an Open Cup game. You survive in advance. So that's what makes them so special. And, in that game, it was a tough game. We had to grind it out and ended up becoming victorious. And then obviously winning that game put us against our rival in Columbus Crew. And kind of when that happened, like you said, the season for us wasn't going great. But once we advanced and found ourselves put up against the Columbus Crew, that became a very integral moment in the season for us, and kind of gave us a lot of momentum and belief, really, that we could continue on in the Open Cup and maybe try and spark us for a little more momentum in the league as well.
Yeah, and that Crew game, we talked about Cincinnati arriving on the national stage, even though that wasn't our broadcast. I remember everyone suddenly sitting up and taking notice. Hey, they just beat the Crew in the Hell is Real derby, right. the first ever clash between Cincinnati and Columbus. So you got past them, and then it was the Chicago Fire, and that was a game we came to do as a big ESPN broadcast, another sellout crowd at Nippert Stadium, and for me, one of my all-time favorite nights as a broadcaster, because it was just everything that encapsulated what makes a cup competition as special as it is. What's your memory of that Chicago game?
Oh, it's amazing. I mean, it'll be etched in stone in the history for FC Cincinnati. It was incredible. I mean, I still get chills thinking about it. The atmosphere, the fact that it was broadcasted by you guys obviously made it a huge deal. Me personally, that was my old club. So I was anxious to play against them and try and get a victory, and then obviously move on in the Open Cup. You're trying to win a trophy. So there's all these elements that go into that game. And for it to end in that fashion, obviously kind of increased our momentum to a level that I don't think anyone thought that it could. It was amazing. The crowd, I mean, people still talk about that game to this day. The PK shootout, it was just a very, very entertaining and fun game to be a part of. I literally yesterday watched a video someone posted from behind us when we won in PKs, and we sprinted obviously to congratulate our goalie at the time, Mitch Hildebrandt, who was incredible in that PK shootout. It was just a really, really fun game to be a part of, and an amazing experience.
Mitch says no. That's the chant I'll always remember.
Yeah, t-shirts everywhere. T-shirts everywhere. Mitch says no. Yeah, that was incredible.
And then bizarrely after that, before the Red Bulls came in the semifinal, you had to get past another second division team, and you had to go to Miami and kind of go off the radar again and somehow get past them.
Yeah, this run was kind of crazy because before that, the game actually got postponed because we went down there originally to play.
Yeah.
And it was crazy lightning, rain. So the game got postponed, pushed back a little bit. So we flew down there, we flew back. And then a little bit later, I forget the date. But we went down there and man, the amount of sweat that came out of me in that game was ridiculous. We defended for like 89 minutes, scored a goal, and they were a great team, had some great players. But it was just one of those games like we had that was a survive and advance, and we did. And then obviously that led us to the Red Bulls. So.
And Sasha, it's interesting, isn't it? Because FC Cincinnati were obviously suddenly in the spotlight. And you mentioned your run, the Red Bulls, getting past 3 fierce rivals and almost doing it off the radar. New York City, you needed a penalty kick shootout, didn't you, to get past the Philadelphia Union in the 5th round? You mentioned that quarterfinal at Harvard University Stadium in front of about 2,000 people to beat the Revolution.
Yeah, that game was special. Just like I said, New York Red Bulls hadn't won in New England in something like 10 years or longer. So, and we knew that every league game we went there, we went to Gillette usually, and we never got a result. And so we knew it was a place that was hard for us to win. And we went to Harvard, and we were we played in the soccer stadium, but we used the hockey locker room, and it was tiny and it was small and it was dirty, and it was such a tough game, and we just had to grind it out. The turf was really bad. The field was not in good shape. They had a lot of fans there too, so it was a decent little atmosphere in a small stadium, a typical U.S. Open Cup game in the early rounds. And, we came out with a very good victory. I think Bradley Wright Phillips scored the goal with about 5 minutes to go, and that was a really good feeling because that game almost felt meant to be for us.
Right. So then, Sasha, it sets up something very different. You go from 2,000 at Harvard Stadium to 33,000 at Nippert. You knew it was going to be another sellout crowd. You knew the sort of atmosphere that was going to await you from what you'd seen. What was the build up to the semi-final like from a Red Bulls perspective?
I think we all knew that the game was going to be a very difficult one. I think we knew that they were feeling good about themselves. They had come up against 2 MLS teams and already won. We knew they had a good team. They had a lot of players that had MLS experience. And then we also knew that the crowd would be into it. And if we gave up the first goal, it would make life really hard on ourselves. And then obviously Corbin scored an early one, and we were going against it for a long time there. So it was a really tough match. We were nervous for a long time, I think.
And Corbin, obviously, as Sasha said, you'd already got past a couple of MLS teams. And you hadn't yet conceded a goal in the tournament in the whole journey to the semi-final up to this point. What was it like in the build-up to this semi-final? What can you particularly remember about it inside the locker room, perhaps what Alan Koch was telling you and the general atmosphere?
I mean, yeah, it was pure excitement. Obviously, you want to play in big games. And like you said, throughout that season in the USL, it wasn't a great season for us. So we had put a lot of emphasis on the Open Cup. And after beating a few MLS teams and the journey that we had already taken throughout the Cup, we knew, the semifinal, you win one more game and you get to the final and you get a chance to try and win a trophy. So we put a lot of emphasis on it, and we believed in ourselves. So far we had beat some good teams, and I think we had a lot of momentum, and I think you could feel that throughout the city and within our players and coaches. So we were excited. Obviously, personally, there's always a little bit of in the back of your head, okay, we're playing up against the MLS team. They're going to be good. They have some obviously quality players like Sasha and Bradley Wright Phillips and these guys who have been around for a long time and have proved themselves. And but you kind of hope that that nervousness goes away, and once the whistle blows, you just go for it. And then that's what we did in the beginning, and our magic ran out a little bit at the end. I guess they weren't nervous for long enough.
Yeah,
So
it was a different sort of game, wasn't it? To pretty much all the games in the previous rounds, you kind of had to dig in and grind it out and find a way to win. And it seemed like in the semifinal against the Red Bulls, it went the other way, where you came out and grabbed the initiative, and obviously you scored the opener just past the half-hour mark. What do you remember about the first half or the first 60 minutes of that game?
yeah, it was great. I think in those games, for us, what you want is you want belief. You want to feel like you're in the game and you can get a result. And I think in the beginning we started well, and obviously me getting that goal was amazing. It's probably my favorite goal that I've scored. Just the reaction to the crowd and just the way it happened was incredible. And so once that
beautiful goal, I can't wait to see it again. It was nice team play.
It was just great. So I once that happens, you really get excited and feel like you can get a result in the game. So that was a great feeling. I just remember the excitement and the adrenaline, honestly, like I felt like no other. The stadium just roared, and it was a great moment. And so you kind of feed off of that crowd. And like Sasha said, we were hoping that we could get the crowd into it because we knew that was a factor for us in the game. And that early goal, I think, did that. And we felt pretty good about it going into halftime. And then, obviously, coming out of halftime, it continues, but eventually comes to a halt.
Sasha, what was? Do you have any memories of halftime being down a goal? Anything particular that Jesse Marsh was saying to you guys at that stage?
I can't remember specifics, but just knowing Jesse, he was just saying, "Look, we're only down a goal. Don't change the way you guys are playing. Keep going after it. The next goal is the one that counts the most. If they score the next one, life gets really hard. If you guys score the next one, game changes a lot." So. Unfortunately, we did not get the next goal, and they got a really nice header off a corner kick, and I think in the back of our minds we had known that they hadn't given up a goal yet in the Open Cup, and especially at home they had been very hard to score against. They had three big center backs back there. They were defending really well, so I think in the back of our minds doubt started to creep in a lot, and we were starting to get a little bit nervy.
Indeed, it was the hometown hero, wasn't it, Corbin? Austin Berry, who got the second, the header, as Sasha described it from the corner, lovely header. So suddenly you're 2-0 up. There's an hour gone. You've got 30 minutes to go. You're in a position you haven't been in the rest of this cup run. You've scored twice for starters. You still haven't conceded. So now, what's the mentality like? Up 2 at home with the finishing line in sight.
Man, after that one, honestly, I was pretty confident. That's the goal that you really want to get when you come out of halftime. Like Sasha said, that's kind of the message is the next one is really important. If we get the next one, then it could be, an insurance goal and put a little bit more pressure on them. If they get the next one, then it becomes anyone's game. So after we got that one pretty early on in the second half, you're thinking, like you said, we haven't given up a goal. We've defended well. We just got a little bit of an insurance goal, a little cushion. You start to really believe even more so. The weird thing is you almost take your foot off the pedal a little bit. And, at that point, I think we kind of started to defend and really started to give up our attacking mindset or trying to take it to them more, and really got us on the back foot. And Bradley Wright Phillips' head is pretty good. And so he had a couple in, but
we'll get to that head of his.
Yeah.
Really, what kind of sparked the turnaround, Sasha, was Gonzalo Veron, like poking home a loose ball from close range, 75th minute, almost out of nothing. I don't know if that's a fair description, but it seemed to come out of nothing. And Veron was obviously a guy who, had been struggling for goals, but that was a big one, wasn't it?
Probably. He actually scored some big goals for us over the years. He didn't score a lot, I think, for the New York Red Bulls, but he scored a couple of playoff goals, and he scored that goal that was really the catalyst for us to start to believe again. Maybe 10, 15 minutes before that, we made slightly tactical change, which I think helped us too. I think we took out a midfielder to bring in Gonzalo Veron, and I dropped back a little bit deeper to try to orchestrate and be on the ball a little bit more and get more guys into the attack. So having Gonzalo up there next to Bradley Wright Phillips, I think caused a few more problems. And yeah, really the goal kind of comes out of nothing. I think it's a ball in the box that kind of gets deflected, and he reacts really well to put it in the back of the net. And that was big for us. That gave us a little bit of belief again.
Yeah, I was going to say, it must have been a huge spark. Still quarter of an hour to go. In fact, didn't take long, did it, for, as Corbin said, Bradley Wright Phillips to intervene. You know, you set up so many of his goals over his career. You didn't actually set up either of these two, but both of them were headers. I don't think he ever got enough credit for his heading ability, did he? But they were both. I mean, looking back, they were both absolutely superb headers. He was off balance for both of them.
Yeah. Now, Bradley is severely underrated goal scoring ability with his head. I think his timing is awesome. His placement with his head is awesome. Obviously, he was going up against center backs that are much bigger than him. He's not a super tall guy. He's probably 5'9", 5'10". These guys were probably 6'2". So really, really two fantastic headers that he scored. He put the team on his back for the last 30, 45 minutes of that game with the overtime. And, you know, there's a reason why he's a New York Red Bulls legend. That's one of them.
Yeah, the first off the cross from Tyler Adams, that leveled it at 2 each. He almost won it with another header back off the underside of the bar, but it was still 2-2, 90 minutes. Corbin, what was that? And you get a brief rest period, brief chance to kind of regroup and talk about it. What was the feeling at 2-2 heading into extra time from FC Cincinnati?
Oh, that was tough. It's tough. I mean, especially scoring those 2 goals and then, you know, having them come back in the last 15 minutes, it really takes the life out of you. You know, so when you get that intermission, you really, at that point, you try and stay in the game, defend as best you can, maybe get a chance here and there, and then maybe head to PKs. You know, obviously in the back of our minds, we had been to a penalty kick shootout and won one. We knew we had Mitch, so we were confident in him. Really just try to hang on and not give up another goal. And unfortunately that didn't happen, but yeah, another, I don't know. Honestly, the 2 headers of he's facing the other way.
Yeah.
His head like goes, it was amazing. So you really, I mean, you can see the reactions. I watched the highlights. You can see the reactions of our center backs and the players. It's just like, it's almost like, how did he do that? Because
how did he score? Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's tough.
Yeah. And then, you know, 3-2 up, Sasha. Interestingly, then it was, kind of role reversal time for the rest of extra time, with the Red Bulls trying to protect what they now had. And actually, FC Cincinnati came close to an equalizer, I seem to remember, with a clearance off the line.
Yeah, I was going to say, I remember the play from Tyler Adams. He actually makes an unbelievable play. I don't know, was it 3-2 at that time when he did that?
Yeah.
That I think our goalkeeper had come out and maybe the ball had gotten past him, and Tyler came in with this crunching goal line saving tackle. And I mean, only Tyler could do that. The kid is amazing. He's got a fierce mentality and not afraid to put his body on the line. And that was the play of the game for me.
Yeah. And so you make the final whistle goes. Got to be contrasting emotions. What was the first thing that popped into your head, Sasha? Because now the Red Bulls had made the Open Cup final, their first Open Cup final since 2003. To do it in that manner must have been something special.
Yeah, there were quite a few emotions going through my head. Obviously, we were really excited, a lot of relief to come back and get that win. There was a small group of Red Bull fans there that we went over and celebrated with, looking at each other in the eyes, seeing like, you know, we were always a team that said we never backed down, that we never gave up. We always believed in each other. And so we showed that to each other that night. And then just the respect we had for FC Cincinnati and their entire fans. This was probably the only time in my career where the opposing team, we walked around the field and clapped for the opposing fans, because we were just so, I don't know I was proud to see that in American soccer in the lower division. The crowd was into it for 120 minutes. They supported their team. And then in the end, I think they were still so proud of the run that their team had made, that it was really awesome to clap for them and them clap for us. And then, you know, a lot of respect for the players on FC Cincinnati also. That was an awesome run that season. I love the Open Cups and I love these stories. So it was really fun.
Yeah. Corbin, what was the initial reaction? It had been such a magical run. I'm sure there was a sense of disbelief that it had actually come to an end.
Yeah, it was tough, to swallow it a little bit. I mean, it was an amazing run, and like Sasha said, there was a tremendous amount of respect for our fans and the way they treated us throughout that run, and for my fellow players. We had worked so hard to get to that point, and it was a tough game to lose it on because the highs and lows. It was an incredible, it was a incredible game to be a part of because there were so many different emotions during it. And I think that's the beautiful thing about the Open Cup is that happens so often in games during that tournament. And I've been a part of many. So it's just an amazing run for us. Eventually it came to an end, but I think, the guys on that team will remember that run, and even this club will remember it, and the fans. Each game was special in its own way. And even in the loss, I was proud to be on that team and to play in that stadium that night for sure.
Do you have any doubt at all that cup run was what really propelled FC Cincinnati basically towards MLS status as quickly as they managed? Do you think they'd be an MLS team as quickly as they were without that Open Cup run?
It's tough to say, but I know that it played a big part. I know that put us on the map. That was a run that really people started to pay attention to. Fans, players. It reached a global level, just of how amazing the sport could be in a city. I think the entire journey is kind of summed up within that Open Cup run, how fast it happened, and the scale of which it happened. And so it was an incredible part of the journey to reach the MLS, and it played a major role in reaching an audience outside of Cincinnati for sure.
And Sasha, you mentioned how much you treasure the Open Cup personally, and it is a very special competition, isn't it? When you look at cup competitions around the world, perhaps kind of decreasing in terms of their importance compared to the big leagues. That's certainly been the case in most of the European leagues, but here it seems to be something really special, doesn't it? Without promotion relegation, it's really the only time you get the chance for smaller teams to take on the big boys.
Yeah, and the thing that I always go back to is that at some point in our careers, now that I'm on the MLS side and we're playing against lower division teams, I always tell our teams in pregame talks when we play a lower division club is at one point in our careers, we were the other guys. We were the ones that were looking up saying, we want to make a statement today. We want to show that we belong. And so those games are always tough, no matter who you play against. Soccer is 11 against 11 in between the lines, and anything can happen. So you can never underestimate your opponent. And those games are always fun.
And one thing I'll always remember about the aftermath of that game was Jesse Marsh, your coach, calling it the biggest win of his managerial career, which was some statement, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's a pretty big deal. I think obviously now he's probably had some Champions League games in Europe, but no, that was a really big win for us. That one was big. It was really nice to get into that Open Cup final. Unfortunately, we didn't win the title that year, but that was a really fun run with that group of guys that I'll never forget.
Yeah, Red Bulls went on to play Sporting Kansas City in the final in September. But we will leave it right there. Corbin and Sasha, I really thank you so much for being a part of this journey down memory lane. A very special night indeed. Tuesday, August the 15th, in front of 33,250 at Nippert Stadium at the US Open Cup semi-final between FC Cincinnati and the New York Red Bulls. Enjoy it.
Thanks.
Thank you.